Welcome back to Hidden Roots. In the first two episodes I found out that my dad was 10 years older than he'd always claimed to be, had links to a huge Ghanaian family, and he was secretly married to a woman from Ghana. In this episode I go through all the clues with some friends and try to figure out what to do next, plus get an unexpected surprise that might make finding my dad's family a whole lot easier. Looking for People's all come down to three key bits of information that Dad had left behind. One being that he went to Harlech College in Wales, so I knew where he'd studied and I knew that would be a good place to start looking. He worked for the Commission for Racial Equality and he was there for over 20 years, so I knew that if I got in contact with them they might be able to point me in the right direction to find some old work colleagues. And thirdly, I had this box of things that Dad left under his bed, and that had his original Ghanaian passport in it, some letters, some addresses, not full addresses, but bits of information that kind of told me that I needed to look in that area. So between those three things, that was the basis that I've used to do all the research.
There was a lot to unpack in that box of letters, but two really stuck out to me. The first was a copy of a letter Dad sent to his old employers admitting to lying about his age. So the age thing wasn't something he was just telling his family. An investigation at work had led to a secret he'd been keeping for years finally coming out. This letter explained why Dad had suddenly stopped working at the job he loved after so many years. At the time we thought he just wanted a career change, but it turned out his employers knew it was time for him to retire. But how had it all come out after so long? The second letter was sent to Dad by one of his brothers in 1993, signed S.K. Marfel Oteng. In it, Dad's brother accuses him of not sending enough money back home to support him, even though he says that he supported Dad financially until he left Ghana. As he puts it, if I looked after you to let your teeth grow, you should look after me as my teeth fall out. Marfel also mentions his two sons, Ernest, who is in Holland, and Edward in London. So where were they now?
So the first bit of filming that I did for this project was way back at the beginning of 2020, pre-coronavirus times. Amazing times, back in the day when it was possible to be in the same household with someone, even if you weren't related, without the fear of maybe killing them. I decided that I wanted to cook a Ghanaian meal, which I had never tried to do before, and also go through all the stuff that I had that I was going to use for this project. So basically the past year and a half I've been living out of a suitcase. I was in London for years, but I moved to Berlin, and then after Berlin I moved to Barcelona, and I haven't taken all my stuff with me, so all my belongings are kind of scattered over the four corners of London. Some of those things ended up at a friend's house. They had all the things that belonged to my dad, so the passport, the marriage certificate, the photo albums, all the stuff that I really needed. So I thought it would be a good idea to combine going over to pick up those things with cooking some food and explaining what the project was to some friends of mine. Very luckily, my friend Leo, who lives at the house where all my stuff was, is also an amazing videographer, so he filmed the evening, and that gave me a bit more time to focus on burning the food. My dad was a terrible cook. My memories of meal times are traumatic, but one thing that Dad did cook that was really good was a traditional Ghanaian dish called peanut stew, and he only cooked it a couple of times, but every time he did, it banged. And I was like, right, if I'm gonna cook for my friends, and at the start of this whole project, I think there's no better thing that I could choose than to try and cook peanut stew. As always, if you're enjoying the video, then give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new episodes.
I actually don't know the extent of it.
Right. So the basics of it is so my dad died 9 years ago. He came from Ghana, and I knew he was from Ghana. I knew he had a big family, but he just didn't open up about it at all. And then when he died, I was clearing out the house, trawling through it, and because everything, it gets really painful because you're everything you throw away is you're throwing away a part of the person. Mm-hmm. And so I really I spent weeks like on his bedroom floor and in the garage. Every now and again I'd come across something that would be like a marriage certificate to a person that I didn't know existed. And it was like, yeah, so he was married to this woman called Irene Deborah.
Okay.
She's also a Ghanaian woman.
Okay.
But who she is, whether they ever got divorced, I don't know, for a start. I know he's one of 13, but I only just today found out the names of one of them through a letter. So all these little clues as to where I can start to make inroads. And basically I just want to try and find some of those people and find out a bit more about who my dad was, because he just didn't tell me when he was alive, and now I'm trying to work it out all backwards from all the stuff that I found that he didn't share with me when he was alive.
There was an unexpected surprise over dinner. While I was serving up, I mentioned that Dad had grown up in a village called Chebi. Nana, a friend of mine who was there that evening, knew the village because her granddad had lived there too. And Chebi is pretty small. Even now, its population is only a few thousand people. Not only that, but her granddad and my dad would have been roughly the same age, and so it was totally possible that they had grown up in the same country, in the same small village at the same time as each other. So what had started as a chance for me to pick up Dad's things and cook a meal for some friends had accidentally turned into my first lead in tracking down Dad's family back in Ghana.
Yeah, well, no, the thing is, we only found out that he was from Chebi today. Mm-hmm. Really, because as far as I remembered, he was from Accra. But then obviously this tells a different story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, Accra's like London. Most people move there because it's the big city. So it's small village boy, move to the big city, or family move to the big city, whatever. But there's a lot of that, you know, it's a small village. So it's like being...
It's literally like a village.
Yeah, it's not
That's
massive.
mad.
Chebi's not big at all. It's like a small kind of mountain region. I think in fact, you know what, let's find out before we get...
And your dad is from there?
My grandfather, so my grandmother's family are from Akropong, which is on the other side, and my grandfather are from Chebi.
Yeah. It was actually really lucky that I went to pick up those things when I did, because straight after being at the house to cook the meal, I went off on tour for a month. By the time the tour had finished, the whole world had gone into lockdown, and I wouldn't have been able to go back to pick them up, and then that would have delayed the whole project by months. So, yeah, good timing. I hope you enjoyed this one. The next video is out now.